Welcome to Scale Her Up, the Female Entrepreneurs Show with me, Brenda Hector. I'm a business growth specialist, helping business owners to develop themselves and grow their businesses so they can achieve their goals and enjoy the lifestyle they dream of. I'm on a mission to revolutionise the entrepreneurial landscape for women in business. In every episode, I interview someone who has an inspiring story or some great advice for women aiming to start or scale their businesses. If you're new to the show, take a moment to subscribe right now so you don't miss any upcoming episodes, and please check out the previous ones after listening to this. We have an awesome Facebook community. Just search for Scale Her Up and join in. Welcome to Scale Her Up and the Business Spotlight series. I'm Brenda Hector from ActionCOACH, and I've got Lynne Hamilton from Planet Tasteful with me today. Welcome, Lynne. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Brenda.
So, tell the listeners and the viewers, what's Planet Tasteful? What is it that you do?
Planet Tasteful is an online boutique. It's basically created for a shopper like me. I've always liked boutique shopping. I've always liked to find something different, but I do find that when you come out of your teens and early 20s, it's harder and harder to find things that are, which is my strapline, tasteful, stylish, and affordable, and that wee bit different. So I basically set it up for shoppers like me, because the one thing that I always have loved is shopping.
And shopping's different these days than it used to be. So, how can you make an online shopping experience more enjoyable for shoppers like you and me then?
Well, I think I've tried to address the frustrations that I had myself. I would be that person that would be scrolling in the evening, putting things in my basket, but never getting them to check out, because I thought, well, I don't know what the sizing's like. I don't know what the material's like. And always I would get to the point thinking, oh, I'm not paying for delivery just for that. So when I was sort of setting out what the blueprint would be for this business, I started addressing all of these things. Well, how can you get an online shopping experience to feel like an in-person? So that's when I started doing videos explaining the cut or the measurements or the fit and things, which body shapes would be good for, and making myself accessible to say, like, if you're unsure, message me. And I think that's been great, because I've built up quite a bit of regular customers and loyalty, because they can come to me and ask on the delivery cost, because it bugged me so much. And I ask loads of people how they feel about paying for online delivery, and it's that thing that annoys people, and it takes away a bit of the joy from the purchase. So I decided that my model would be built so that the customer wouldn't have a delivery cost. So for me, that it makes me feel good when I'm posting out a parcel, but I do think it adds to the shopping experience online if you don't pay for delivery.
I love it. I love it. Yes. So let's go back then to why you started your business, because I know you've had it's a recent business following a change of career. So share that story with us, please.
Well, I was a banker for 31 years. I really like an expression you've used in previous podcasts, an entrepreneur opposed to an entrepreneur. I worked my way up through the banking system to what was my dream job, private banking. I was a private banking manager before the position became redundant, which it was a selling role, but it was selling through customer service, looking after people, building really strong relationships. I don't think we ever lost a customer in private banking because the relationships were so strong. When that came to an end, if I'm honest, I really didn't believe that I could do anything but banking, because I saw myself as a banker. But this contact that I have, I was actually a customer of his. On the day that I found out my job was on a shaky peg, he was actually having a meeting with my brother. He set up a business that supplied cars, because car buying for most people is not a joyous journey. So they set up an experience that was very transparent, but a good car buying experience. And they set up a concierge service. So it was basically private banking for cars. So on the day I found out my job was on a shaky peg, my brother was meeting with him. So when I phoned my brother to say, I think I'm going to be made redundant, he obviously relayed this to the guy he was speaking with. That night, my brother said, you don't have to worry about finding a job, because Piers, this contact, had said she should come and work for us. And I was going, Craig, he's just being polite. You know, that's never going to happen. So fast forward a few weeks and we met for a coffee, Piers and I, and he said, so what are you going to do when you leave the bank? And I was full of, well, I've worked since I'm 16. I've never had a break. I'm going to enjoy this time until I decide what to do next. And he said, well, I think you should come and work for us. And I went, but I know nothing about cars. And he went, well, number one, just as well, this is not an interview. But number two, that's not what we want you for. It's for your customer service skills, dealing with high net worth, dealing with professionals. And I kept saying no, because I looked on this guy as a friend, and I thought, at 48, starting a new career for a friend, you know, this, I just couldn't see myself doing anything else but banking. So he phoned one night and he said, look, we're going to be busy in March. You're going to have nothing to do. Why don't you come and help us out come for 3 months? And if you like it, you can stay and be a concierge manager. So I thought, well, that's not any real commitment. I'll go for 3 months. It'll be interesting. And I went from being the new girl, a good 10, 15 years older than the next older eldest person, young, entrepreneurial company, a world away from what the banking world was. It's clunky, it's bound by compliance, and it really opened the doors for me, because I would say, it'd be really good if we could do things this way. And my boss would go, that's a fantastic idea, let's do it. And I'm like, do we not have to check with anybody? You know, because I was so used to everything going through compliance. So I stayed for 3 years, not for the 3 months. And that gave me the confidence that actually anything is possible. And I keep saying to people I meet now, if you get the chance to spend time with an entrepreneur that's built something from scratch, do so, because I loved my time in the bank, but I do realise I was a bit institutionalised, and it just gave me wider thinking. So fast forward to lockdown, we were in the world of doing things on Zoom, and Zoom is not my natural happy place. I'm a face-to-face person, so I found it really intense. Also, my husband was shielding, my mum was on her own. Lockdown was not the experience for me that it probably was for my colleagues. They were all in flats with their friends and doing online quizzes, and you know, but for me it was quite a kind of anxious time. And I think just the going to the world of Zoom, everything on screen, I just found it really overwhelming. And again, I was probably at a very dodgy age, not sleeping, worrying about everything. And one night I said to my husband, I was getting upset. I said, I just can't do that Zooming. And he's very black and white. He went, well, don't do it then. And I said, but everybody else is doing it. And he said, well, just leave. And at that moment, I thought, you know what? When else could I leave without upsetting customers, because I had no pipeline, upsetting my colleagues or my boss because we weren't in normal function. And also my boss was interviewing for candidates to join our team, and he had 2 really good ones, and he was picking between them. And I thought, you know what? He could take the 2 of those, and I could go, and it would be quite seamless. So I wrote my email on the Tuesday and sent it on the Wednesday. And then I was thinking, right, what am I going to do now? Not thinking that this pandemic was going to last the time that it was. And I started thinking, I think I got to Friday and I was going to my mum's with her shopping. And I was thinking, so what can I do next? If a next employer asks me, why did you leave your last position? I can't say I didn't like that Zoom in. That doesn't sound very ambitious. And then I thought, well, actually, do I need to go and work for somebody? Maybe I could do something for myself. So the return journey from dropping off my mum shopping was, what could I do for myself? And as I said earlier, I've always loved shopping. Shopping is something I'm good at. Why don't I do something that involves shopping, but I could be the salesperson? So by the time I got back home, I kind of got it all in my head and I came out the car full of beans and I announced to my husband, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to have my own business. I'm going to do it online and I'm going to sell like fashion accessories. To which he responded, oh Lynne, don't be ordering a whole lot of things and keeping them all to yourself. So initially I thought how rude, but actually how well did he know me? Because, that's exactly what's happened, that everything that comes in a stock order, I think, well, I need to be the face of my brand. What am I going to have for myself? So it kind of really started from there. It was opportune because shops were closing left, right, and centre. People were stuck in their houses looking at their phones. People still had presents to buy for people. So I started stocking. Well, actually, I put this on today because it's one of my best-selling products. These cashmere ponchos, scarves, bags, a little bit of jewellery, just fashion accessories. But I always had a burn that I wanted to do actual clothing. So it took me from the July really to the October to build up a client base and then start introducing clothing. So it was a bit of a journey.
Fantastic. So you were saying how lockdown and when we were limited was a good time to start an online boutique. How's it changed as we're more kind of back to normal now? So has it changed for you as we've got back to normal?
You would expect that it would, Brenda. You would expect, because you'd think that people would be itching to get back out there into real shops. Now, we're in Aberdeenshire and there's been a huge loss in the go-to shops. John Lewis, Debenhams went, all the Acadia group went. So I think for a lot of people, whilst you would think that they would be racing back to physical shops, we've got so used to the online shopping that it's now not a instead of, it's now just what you do. I mean, we all buy from Amazon, we all buy from, we've all got to recognise brands that we get delivered. So I don't think it's an instead of anymore, which I think initially maybe pre-lockdown it was, but I think it's now just recognised. But what I did over that time was build a core of some really loyal customers that liked the styles of the stock that was stocking, liked the colours. I always say you won't find a lot of black at Planet Tasteful because there's plenty of places to go and buy black. You can go to Marks and Spencer's, you can go to Next, you'll get black. Nobody's going to notice if it's any different from any other black dress. I tried to stock a bit of colour, whether it's brights, whether it's muted, but I like to stock something different. The best thing for me is when my clients come back and say, oh, I was stopped in the street. Where did you get your dress? And my best story so far was, and it just recently, one of my customers for the start, she her first purchase was a pink pair of gloves because she loves pink, and she bought a dress and wore it in Times Square in New York, and somebody stopped her admiring her dress, and I'm like, that's it, ticking the box for me. That's exactly what I wanted to achieve.
That's brilliant. So, how many years? Yeah, so since, was it 2020 you started? Yeah, yeah. So what have been the challenges that you've faced then over the last 4 years?
Well, the challenges, mainly because computer rooms were just beginning to be a thing when I left school. Technology has been a huge, I use the word frustration because it is a frustration. For younger people, they've grown up with it and it's second nature. So for me, it's just been a huge frustration, and it took somebody with much better knowledge than myself to actually point out that, you know, there's help on hand, and instead of spending all your hours frustrated, that you could actually get somebody to help with the things that you can't do. So I would say that that's been a huge learning curve for me. Everybody thinks because I spent 31 years in front of one computer system or another in the bank that you're great at computers. No, I knew my way around the bank's computer system. I'm not an expert in anything else. So that's been a huge learning curve. The social media, again, I had to have a little word of myself on that one. I did an online course, and it kept coming through that you must be the face of your business. So, of course, my conversation in my head was, well, you're not a perfect size 10, you know, you're not going to look the best in everything that you try on, so I won't be doing that. And then the further I went into this course, and it kept reiterating the importance of this, I thought, well, actually, my customers aren't perfect size 10s either. And even perfect size 10s, I find they've got something that they're, you know, less confident about or unhappy with. So actually, you know, if I'm appealing to people like me, I really need to walk the talk, as it were. And whilst I find that hard, I still cringe a bit when people go, oh, I watch your videos. And I'm going, oh, didn't tell me that, because when I make them, I actually work on the basis that nobody's actually watching, or I would be really embarrassed.
That's okay, Lynne. I don't watch your videos. I don't like seeing the dresses. I don't like seeing where you're wearing them. Yeah, I've got no idea what you're doing on social media.
Nobody likes to see themselves or hear their voice. But do you know what? It came from something that I find quite a burden to, you know, it's a huge asset for me, because I'll give you a for example. I started buying in things for party season, and last year I had these sequin jumpsuits that, you know, they're not for everybody. They're definitely for dancing queens. I kept saying, I wish somebody would wear this to ABBA Voyage. It would be a great outfit because it's silver sequin. And I sold them out, and the supplier brought them back for this year. So I thought, you know what? They've been really popular. I'll buy them in again. So already they've almost sold out. And that is the power of social media. The day that I put that video up is the day that people go, gosh, I like that. I know that it's not like Marks and Spencer's, and I can get this in 3 months' time. If I want it, I really need to move now. And generally, the thing that I put on that day either sells out or quite a lot of the sizes go. So it's gone from being like my biggest kind of, oh, do I have to actually, I need to, because it's my shop window, as it were. So yeah, anything that's technology is like you know, the things that have me kind of cursing and shutting the laptop in frustration. And but you've learnt me a great lesson, Brenda. Instead of wasting my energies doing that, look at the people that can help and get their input. So yeah,
it's a really common challenge that business owners of startups do when they start up and they're, you know, they're bootstrapping, if you like. They don't have the money to hire people from the start, so they have to learn things themselves, and then it can be difficult to then let go of that. So yeah,
The
really
other
cool.
thing, and again, it's something that you highlighted to me, is I realise how risk averse I am. Now, some people would say, quit your job in a national lockdown. That doesn't sound very risk averse to me. But my principles, because of being a banker, seeing how business people work, maybe how business people work not in the best way, um, I am very mindful of, you know, you kind of spend everything that you don't take risks on things. And I realise actually I don't really need to be like that. You know, there's nothing that, you know, I can still make sure that I've got reserves for all the things that I need, but do I need it to be as much as I keep back? So again, it's just somebody else making you think, you know, does it need to be like that? Where when you're on your own, you think, oh no, I just need to be cautious. So again, I suppose being a bit more relaxed in that thinking has has been a good thing. Definitely.
Fantastic, fantastic. So who's been your biggest supporter in business, or supporters?
Oh gosh, so many, so many. I'll give you a great, for example, uh, this lady Carol. She's my friend, but initially she was my boss when I worked in the bank in Stirling. Um, so through my career, we've kept up. We both left the bank. We're good friends. Um, she is one of my greatest supporters, to the point that although she lives in Stirling, when I have had fashion shows, I asked her if she would model. So her and her daughter have actually modelled for me. Um, I've had such loyal customers. Again, I've asked some of them, Kay and Gillian, if they would model for me. And through that, they became really good friends. Um, some of my customers now, when I'm buying, I actually think of them. So when I'm picking colours and style, I think, oh, that'd be good for so and so. And sure as goodness, they are the first people to buy. So customers wise, I mean, my banking network, my friends have been huge. But actually, then other networks that I've been part of, I've done collaborations with one person you'll know, Rosie Elliott from House of Colour. We've realised that actually the job that she does, introducing colour to people's lives, is a great compatibility with what I'm doing, because people might find out there's a need for colour but don't know where to go. So yeah, I mean, so many supporters. Um, my family, I mean, my brother and his wife have been great supporters. They have a restaurant and they actually have one of my mannequins in there. My sister-in-law wears my dresses at every shift. So the amount of people that go, oh, I love your dress, where did you get it? And she has a stock of business cards, and she's a goodness. Generally, after her Saturday night shift, by the middle of the week, I've got inquiries from those customers. So many people that, you know, you just don't take the support you're going to get for granted, but you know, your real supporters come out of the woodwork. So, in fact, a great story. My boss at Pike and Banbridge actually sent out an email, and oh gosh, it brought tears to my eyes. And he said, "We don't normally, you know, when people go, we wouldn't normally do this, but because I was setting up my own venture, he wanted to tell my customers about it, and you know that I was leaving to do this." And I thought, well, that was really nice, because you know didn't have to do that, but it meant a lot to me. So yeah.
I think a lot of people find that everybody's supportive of in business. You know, if you need to reach out to somebody, if I need help with something, people are always really responsive and really helpful, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think probably the biggest thing is asking for help. And throughout my whole career, if I've been interviewing people or, mentoring people, I've always said that asking for help is a strength, not a weakness. So for some reason, when it came to my own situation, I kind of forgot that. And it's funny, I think that the structure and the practices and everything you do as an employed person, for some reason, when you go into the self-employed space, you kind of forget that all of those still apply. And it's very hard to kind of get back to your practices because you realize you've got this flexibility and freedom, but with that flexibility and freedom goes not being as organized as you were before. So through a course that I did, the program for growth, um, through that, we talked about the importance of week planning. So now every Monday, I still do this week planning. Now, when I started this, I thought it's just not so important because if I don't do it on this day, I'll do it on that day. But we all know that the time runs away and we don't do it. So I got back to diary planning. And then through my project with the person that helped me on my website, I got into, right, Wednesday is the day that I do my admin. It's a day that I change my shop window. So admin can be my work admin, it can be my personal admin. I'm involved with a charity, so it's my charity stuff. And now I realise that instead of that hanging over me like a cloud all week till I get to it, I don't think about it till Wednesday. I do it on a Wednesday, and then it's parked on a Wednesday. So
Oh, that's such a brilliant piece of advice, isn't it? To just, yeah, schedule and plan.
exactly. But I knew all of this, Brenda. I've done this for years, scheduling and planning and diary planning. So why I let it slip in my new world, and you know, it's like finding something for the first time. You think, oh my goodness, that works. But I've done it for years. So sometimes
But
you just need it reiterated.
obviously, I talk to a lot of business owners, and I think it's really common and forgetting that the skills that you had in a employed role are applicable in your business role. I guess when you start as an entrepreneur, you realize there are a lot of things you don't know. And so you focus on the things you don't know and forget that there's lots there that you did know, and you can still draw on that. And sometimes it feels like you know nothing and you need a reminder that, yeah, but you were doing that, you could do that. It's not so different from being employed, and taking the transferable skills with you.
Exactly. And it goes right back to the day that, I found out that I was being made redundant. At that point, I didn't believe that I could be anything else but a banker. But that period of 3 years working for an entrepreneur in a small team made me realize, that anything is actually possible because this person built a business from absolutely nothing. And that's my advice to anybody now. You know, if you want to widen your thinking, go and shadow an entrepreneur or get to know an entrepreneur because you'll benefit so much from their thinking. Now, my systems were maybe slow and clunky compared to his. They definitely were because I was very old school. The customer, if they phoned, I would answer the phone call no matter what because I always believed that if a customer phones you, when it's convenient for them, it's not when it should be convenient for you. So, I was maybe slower and clunky because of how I'd always been, but I maybe some of my ways maybe rubbed off on the rest of them, but certainly their way definitely rubbed off on me, and certainly that we can do anything, we can be anything thinking, you know, for somebody like me that I keep saying, although I loved my job, I was institutionalized. I mean, my husband always says, you're the most negative person I know, but every customer I had in front of me in the bank, they wanted to borrow money, it was always going to work. They never looked at the downsides. And when people tell stories, oh, we built up this massive property portfolio, they only tell you of the stories that work. They'll never say, oh, we lost so much money on these properties. So I've seen that from the bank. So I would always say, what about this? What about that? And when I worked in this entrepreneurial business, whilst, there was risk there, there was never this sort of delay in embracing new ideas or embracing other people's ideas, which I thought was so refreshing that I just couldn't believe. I was like, what about compliance? Don't have to check with anybody else.
Oh, it's brilliant. A really good story. Thank you for sharing. I wanted to ask you about women in business then. So you probably know that only 1 in 3 entrepreneurs in the UK are female, and men are 5 times more likely to scale their business up to over $1 million. So what can we do to encourage more women like you to start businesses?
You're probably right, because most of my customers, not only in private banking, but also at Pike and Banbridge, I was dealing with business owners, professionals. Most of them were men. Most of them were men. So yeah, I mean, thing is, I think it is definitely a confidence thing, and I absolutely love to see young women, young people coming up, and their thinking is completely different to what mine would have been. My niece, for example, left university and applied for a job as a project coordinator in an oil company. So I was going, so Yasmin, what kind of projects? What will you actually be doing? And she said, well, I don't know, but I'm quite sure they'll train me. And I thought, my goodness, my thinking would be, I don't know what that is. I don't know if I'll be able to do that. So therefore, I would apply. So I think as females, we have a bit of maybe lack of confidence. We've all done the insights training, and I'm a natural sort of green emotive. So everything comes down to my decision making is based on feelings. Whereas if we could get ourselves to recognise actually that we could be a bit bolder without upsetting anybody, we might get there a wee bit quicker. So, and I think we can all work to support each other. I've been part of some really great groups that have been all female led, and just by seeing other people, especially the younger ones coming up, I think, God, they can, surely we can. But yeah, I agree, Brenda, there's a huge bit to go. And the thing is, when we look at, who are the brands or whatever that we look up to, some of them actually are, female founded,
Yeah.
female led. So, there are opportunities there. And it's just obviously a harder journey to get there if you're female.
Well, maybe put in a plug for BWC, because that's where we met. That's a brilliant ladies networking group, not just for entrepreneurs, but for any women in business. So yeah, we'll plug Karen and her group in Aberdeen for sure. Yeah.
Honestly, it's been absolutely fantastic for me, because the stage that I'm at, I recognise I definitely don't know everything. Sometimes there's just a little question or query. In fact, I had a query the other week there, and my solicitor came back to me and said, you really need to speak to an accountant or a financial advisor. Now, I know loads of them. Some of them are really good friends, but I actually know somebody through that network that is both. And I felt, gosh, I could lift the phone to her in a quick 5-minute phone call and get my question answered. So it's a great community of supportive people. And also, as a business whose customers are all women, why would you not join one of these networks and tell them about it so they can tell their friends and who can tell their friends? It's just like a absolute no-brainer. So yeah, it's a great network to be part of.
So if you could go back to 18-year-old Lynne, what advice would you give her?
It would definitely be that your job doesn't define you, that you can actually do anything. The 18-year-old me was I'm saying I'm risk averse. I would have been risk averse, completely like not a confident person. So that, I would go back and say, do you know what? You can really be whatever you want to be. I wouldn't have believed it, the person I was back then, but if that voice had been ringing in my head as the years passed, then maybe being made redundant at 48 would have been not such a scary experience. For me, I know that some people think that being made redundant, oh, that's just the end, it's, crushing. For me, I felt that it would be more stressful for me to have stayed than to go, because the job was changing. Mm-hmm. So leaving, it wasn't the end of my world, but I did have this lack of confidence that, I'm a banker. What else can I do? So yeah, I think we should all tell ourselves you can be anything you want to be or do anything if you put your mind to it. If I can quit my job in a pandemic when everybody's shut in the house, nobody's going anywhere, it could have gone all wrong. But I think it was the time that you think, oh, I'm going to have to stick in a bit harder to make it go right. So yeah.
And it's been an amazing opportunity for you, rather than being made redundant and quitting your job in the pandemic have been great opportunities, rather than the negativity that it might feel when you first learn that this is what's going to happen. So yeah, brilliant to have turned it round. Well done.
I would never have done it, Brenda. If I'd been made redundant, I would never have set up something on my own straight from there, because at that point I didn't have the belief. But being in that entrepreneurial environment just changed my thinking. So, I keep saying, widen your thinking, spend time with other people that think differently, because it'll rub off on you. Definitely.
Lynne, well, that's a brilliant message to end on. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure to interview you. And yeah, I'm going to have a look on the website. I'm liking the look of that pink jacket behind you. Thank you so much, Lynne.
Thank you, Brenda. It's a great opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Scale Her Up, the Female Entrepreneurs Show. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes, and join our Facebook community at Scale Her Up. Please connect with me, Brenda Hector, on social media and drop me a message to let me know how you're enjoying the podcasts, or even better, pop up a review. I'll finish by reminding you that only 1 in 3 UK entrepreneurs are female, and men are 5 times more likely to scale their business to over 1 million in turnover than women are. If we started and scaled our businesses to the same extent as men, it would add £250 billion to the UK economy and provide millions of jobs. Ladies, you can do it and make a massive difference.